What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Straight Off the Hook. I'm Mikey Slayball, and today I get to talk a little bit about my experience on bowling on string pins for the very first time, and it was an eye-opening experience, I'll just say that. But yeah, it's pretty cool and fun, so let's get into it. So, heading to Easy Bowl in Bluffton, Indiana, we were heading that way for our first ever string pins tournament. Now, this was a PBA hosted tournament, but it wasn't for any points or any titles. It was actually a test event, and I think they've done 4 or 5 of these this year now, where they're basically just gathering data on, well, first of all, how scoring goes, how pin carry is. You know, they have cameras on every pair, and also they get feedback from us bowlers, and we talk about how we feel about things and kind of just give our 2 cents on how we feel about the change to string pins. And I will just say right out of the gate, the first thing I noticed is it felt like there was tension in the pin deck. That's the best way to describe it. It just felt like as the ball was going through the pins, it didn't feel like the ball was entering and using its own kinetic energy to go through the pins. It felt like it would go into the pins and then get pushed around. Like that's the best way I can describe it in my mind. Now, obviously, that's not what happened, but that's just kind of how I saw it. I actually struggled really bad to get out of the gates early there at Bluffton, and they weren't actually hard. It was just learning how to get my ball through the pins, because with there being just a different way that the pins fall, it takes a different approach to getting the ball to go through the pins. So I shot 178 in game 1, and I had 5 wrap 10s and a pocket 710 in there. Part of that was, 1, I think I was a little too quick with my speed, but 2, the miss I play for naturally on free fall pins doesn't really happen on string pins. So naturally on free fall pins, I always aim or line myself up that when I ace it, it's going to be a 3/4 pocket hit, because I allow my rev rate and my speed to take over and get pins to go side to side. And usually I get messengers, or I get the 6 pin off the wall. That's the goal, is the 6 pin off the wall to take the 10 out. And my miss is usually left. And so obviously if I'm playing for that light pocket hit and I miss left, high flush. That's how I mentally set up to approach playing any type of sport condition. That's just my natural mindset. With string pins, you can't play the light swisher hit. I mean, you can, but it's not very effective because pins do not go left to right. The pins only go back. And the first thing I noticed, like when I was trying to take mental notes of what was going on, ball speed mattered way more than rev rate, and ball motion was super important. So, and I want to stop right here before going any further. This is all my gathering and my mental notes I'm making. This is all relative to me and what I saw. If somebody else saw something different, I'd love to talk to them about it and see what their thoughts are on it. But this is all what I saw and what I feel about string pins. Anyways, back to it. I definitely had the vibe that speed dominated over rev rate, and then ball motion mattered way more than what it did before. Kinda. We'll get into that in a little bit. So after struggling getting out of the gates with the 170, I battled back with 230 and 210, and then the lanes kind of got wishy-washy and wonky on me, and I kind of battled the rest of the day, and I was able to actually end up bowl 2-handed the last 2 games, and I went even for those 2 games. That was really cool. We'll get into that to a whole nother video. This is about string pins here. But anyways, the rest of the day was me kind of finding out, how do I get my ball to strike through string pins? Because moving left and really opening them up and trying to make the pocket really big, it worked as long as you dead aced it. There was no miss room. If you were light hit, you could 410 on a 3/4 pocket hit strike. It would 410. A lot of 7 pins. You left an absurd amount of 10 pins. I'm actually gonna look real quick. Yeah, I left 14 10 pins, which is almost 1.5 a game, which actually that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, I won't lie, but that's still very frustrating, and I picked them all up, just so you guys know. Anyways, don't laugh at me. It just felt like I was trying to knock over trees. That's just the best way to put it. Guys I saw do really well were guys with really high ball speeds and ones that actually kept the ball in front of them really well. So Steve Novak, David Norhaus, Chandler Stevens, all those guys bowled extremely well, and they kept the ball right in front of them and kept their ball speeds very, very high. Myself, I like to play with lower ball speeds. I like to open angles up a little bit more. I like to get the ball to circle the fronts more. That's just naturally how I've developed my physical game. And I will tell you guys, it was no bueno. It was so no bueno that, yeah, I was just lost. My thoughts on string pins after this. Do I think that it's going to kill bowling? No, I don't. I do think it is definitely not as eye appealing. You know, we don't get the big old flying logs going across the lanes and taking out 10 pins and stuff like that. We don't have the cool trip 4s and rolled 2 pins and stuff like that. Like, it's just not the same excitement. However, I do think what these bring to the table that freefall pins do not is the attention to detail when it comes to ball motion, because you have to be so focused on what your ball is doing to make sure it's going through the pins properly. So I will say that's actually a plus, because that takes bowlers and holds them at a much higher standard, because now you're not just gripping and ripping. Now you actually have to focus on what the ball is doing on the lane, because I'll admit I'll fall into that trap all the time with having a higher rev rate and being able to open the lane up. Sometimes I just kind of let that take care of itself and let the pins fall as they may, and because, you know, physics is on my side in, you know, some aspects, I get away with stuff. On freefall pins, on string pins, you just don't. So that is one thing. I don't think they're going to ruin bowling. I do, however, believe that if we're going to hold PBA events for national tour titles, they should probably stay on freefall pins. I get maybe hosting a regional here and there on string pins for titles. I don't really think there's anything wrong with that, especially if more centers are going to go to it. But personally, as a fan of bowling and what it is, I think that when it comes to the national tour titles, we should just stick with the freefall pins. Personal opinion, I think for TV purposes and also just for bowlers and their sanity, I think sticking with freefall pins is the best way to go at the national tour level. That to say I would bowl on string pins at a regional tour event, absolutely I would. Now that I know what I'm in for, I would have no problem bowling on string pins at a regional event. What was I going to go with this? Oh, I guess my overall conclusion. Good for bowling in the sense of it keeps bowling alleys alive. It's a financial help to a lot of these centers who can't afford mechanics and stuff like that. So it keeps bowlers, it keeps a place for bowlers to go when they need to go bowl. Is it the same as freefall? Not even close. It's a completely different animal. I don't hate it though. It allows a new aspect of bowling to come into play and honestly a lot more concentration. But I do think for purposes of just viewing pleasure in a sense for the PBA enthusiast, I think that for national tour titles and really anything that's big and worth a lot of money, honestly, I think we should stick with just the freefall pins. Personal opinion, but hey, it is what it is. Still loved it. Great experience. Obviously, Easy Bowl in Bluffton, EJ, and the Tackett family are amazing. They were phenomenal hosts. They always are. And I was a little bummed because I lost my cashing, or actually my match play streak there. I'm 5 for 5 until this year. Now I'm unfortunately 5 for 6. So it is what it is. We move on to the next one and hopefully get ready to bowl another string pin event, because I'd love to go back and try to redeem myself and make something happen. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. If you haven't already, please head over to Motive Bowling and get yourself set up for your next tournament. We got all the good stuff. We got forges, jackals, shocks, you name it. We got all of them. Go get one, motivebowling.com. Head over to Jopo Grips. Get yourself the best interchangeable grips you could possibly imagine. I absolutely love Jopo because their grips last forever, just like their thumbs, okay? They're insane. Go get you some Jopo grips. Also, Zello gear. You want to get decked out and look like the pros, or even better maybe, get drippy with it, head over to Zello gear, use TOETAP119 as your promo code and get a discount off your purchase. And also, huge shout out to Genesis being one of the best K-Tape sponsors I could ever ask for. And yeah, I just have amazing support from all of my sponsors, and you guys need to go support them. All right, so there you guys go. String pins aren't going to kill bowling. I think they're just different. So yeah, take care everybody. Have a good one. Keep everything straight out the hook.